Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe. Very excited for today's show. We've got Brandon Howliet on the line with us. So, Brandon, welcome.
Hey, Brian, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate you for inviting me today.
yeah, absolutely. So, do us a favor and tell us a little bit about yourself.
About me, my name is Brandon Howliet. I am a Chicago, Illinois native. I've been
Mhm.
investing in real estate, single family, fix and flips, laundromats since 2002. I began my multifamily journey in 2022, and I've always wanted to be here. Like the 20 years before, when I was investing in residential, deal by deal, flip by flip, and that
Yeah.
was during the crash also.
Mm.
We got hurt in that as well with a bunch of other investors too. I just realized that the fix and flip just really wasn't for me. I'm
Mhm.
not too good at swinging a hammer, but I am very good at getting in front of people, talking, and doing deals. So that's where my superpower lies, and
Uh-huh.
that's brought me here to the multifamily world.
Awesome. Awesome. So, one thing you mentioned about the flipping, you weren't good at swinging hammers and whatnot, but were there other reasons that drove you to this? Or what, besides that, what else kind of made multifamily appealing for you?
Just knew the scalability was better, was faster in residential versus commercial. You get to where you want to be faster in commercial. You can add value to that multifamily project and
Hmm.
it can appreciate in value much quicker than it will in
Hmm.
residential. And you can scale it, and there's more tax advantages, more profitability, and the aspect of working with partners to get
Yeah.
you over the finish line really appealed to me.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, how did you go about getting into multifamily? Just kind of a little bit of flavor on the question. I remember the first time I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about owning apartments. And I remember at one point thinking, that's way too complicated for me. I'll never be able to do that. And it took me a long time to figure it out. But how did you go about learning about it? How did you go about getting into this business?
Yeah, it was during the pandemic. I was working in law enforcement, and I didn't mention that before. I was a law enforcement officer here in Chicago for 23
Hmm.
years. But during that time, we were home about 2.5 or 3 years during COVID, and just started my education there on
Yeah.
YouTube, watching a bunch of videos, and I hired me a mentor in the Michael Blanc
Yep.
program. I got involved with that, and it just opened my mind to multifamily and how you could really become financially free in
Yeah.
that realm faster than in residential.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely also a team sport, which you mentioned earlier. You partner with people and you can do a lot more. So yeah, you got into the coaching program. Let's talk about the first deal that you got into. I understand you guys closed, you said December of 24. Let's talk a little bit about that and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, well, that deal was the cherry on top, but there was a
Hmm.
lot of painstaking nights, a
Hmm.
lot of networking, a lot of underwriting deals,
Hmm.
introducing myself to brokers, assembling my property management, my
Hmm.
insurance, my team, everything. But before that deal did go through, we were involved in two deals in
Hmm.
Texas which
Yep.
fell through. And I mentioned we got involved in multifamily in 2022.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember or not, the rates were when I
Right when the rates
first,
started out. Yep. March
yeah,
of 22. Yep.
yeah. So when I got in, right, the rates were at 3%.
Hmm.
Then when I started getting some sort of kind of a deal flow, the rates
Hmm.
jumped up to 8, 9%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as sellers were still pushing back on their prices, and it was much harder to raise capital during that time.
Hmm.
And these were deals that were smaller deals. One was
Hmm.
a 36 unit, the other was a 56 unit in Texas. Both of those deals fell through. One fell through because of
Hmm.
structural issues with the property, and
Yep.
the other we just couldn't raise on it. But throughout that process, throughout that pain, I really learned that bigger is better.
Hmm.
In the network that I'm in, people really noticed me. I was really involved in every call,
Hmm.
contributing, reaching out to prospective investors and partners, and people really they really gravitated to me.
Hmm.
So we
Yeah.
were actually invited to this deal last year. It's a 113 unit townhome
Hmm.
community, Brentlinger Townhomes in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
It's a Class A property. It was built in
Hmm.
2023. It was 93% occupied when we got involved, and it was a
Hmm.
$24 million acquisition. And like I said,
Yep.
we closed on that in December, and everything has been going up.
Tell us a little bit about the deal and why you liked it. You already gave us unit count and location. Is it a value add? Was it stabilized? But, kind of walk us through what the deal looks like in a little more detail and why you particularly like this one.
Yeah, it was a beautiful property. We were actually invited to this deal from my mentor's mentor, right?
Yep.
So it was a high-end Class A property,
Yep. Okay.
built in 2023, 113 units. What I especially liked about it is each apartment was a two-bedroom and two
Hmm.
and a half bath.
Hmm.
So they're very spacious, very modern.
Hmm.
Every unit had a washer and dryer in there, high efficiency ACs, undermounted kitchen cabinets and lighting,
Yep.
Wi-Fi, and there was a possibility for us to add $200 a month in rent.
Hmm.
And that was a value add play for the deal.
Okay.
But it was at 93% occupancy, and right now we're at 98%. That's
Mm.
since December, and we're on track to be very close to 100% within the next month or so.
Okay, awesome. One thing I've realized with that 100% occupancy is it's always fleeting. You hit that 100% mark, you do a fist pump, and then 2 days later somebody moves out and you're, trying to get back to 100. But occupancy is looking really well. I love that. So A class, stabilized asset, brand new build. What's the plan? Are you guys going to be long-term hold and let it cash flow, or what's the plan on that one?
Yeah, right now that's a preferred return first 3 years.
Yep.
So we'll probably refi at year three, and if we don't refi at year three, we'll definitely sell at year five.
Hmm. Okay. Awesome. 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 Now, incidentally, in a lot of parts in the country, A-class properties actually are on sale. Were you guys able to get a pretty good price on it because of kind of what's going on in the market right now, or how did that work out?
Yeah, during that time, like I said, the rates were coming down, and the new administration, was taking over. Then we pretty much got this deal. We were in the right place at the right time, and people say that, but it's a lot more than that. Like I said, I was invited to this deal, but had I
Yep.
not done the work
Mhm.
2 years before in this industry,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been invited to this deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So people really recognize the value that I bring
Hmm.
as far as
Yep.
capital raising, investor relations, asset
Hmm.
management, and just networking in this industry.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. So you came in with a couple other people, and I know you guys raised a little bit of money for it, and now part of the asset management team. Let me ask you this. You had a couple of deals that you guys were pursuing that fell through. So you had a couple of dry runs, but when you get into this, deal that closed, what were some of the biggest challenges you had with this particular deal going through?
But pretty much, I mean, this deal was the sweetest deal that I've
Hmm.
ever been involved in. But I could say a challenge would be because of my two previous deals with a couple investors. This deal may have looked too good to be true. So you
Yep.
fall into some of that, a little bit that, you can talk yourself through
Hmm.
that, just reassure the investors that, hey, this is the deal. These are the returns. This is not a pie in the sky. It's not a get rich quick
Yeah.
scheme.
Yeah.
You lay out exactly what's going to be needed and what's going to
Hmm.
be raised and what's going to be returned to the investor over that 5 year period.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Now, going through the raise closing process, were there any big snags or was it pretty much smooth sailing the whole time?
Yeah, we were involved in it was at least four groups raising on
Hmm.
this deal.
Hmm.
The total raise was 9 million. Our portion of that was a little under 1 million.
Hmm.
So we pretty much hit that mark within 2 to 3 weeks of
Hmm.
raising. And another thing that I've learned, like bigger is better in this
Hmm.
industry, right? It's a lot easier to raise for a 100 unit deal than it is
Hmm.
a 30 unit deal.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it. There's more meat on the bone for investors in those types of deals. And it's just worth an investor's time to invest in a bigger deal like that. And I didn't learn that until it was almost too late for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. So closed in December. I know we talked about occupancy or where occupancy's at, but how did you guys handle the transition in ownership and how have things gone since then?
Transition of ownership went very smooth. Your team should be in place before you even make a offer on the deal. Like your
Hmm.
property management, those are the ones that you're getting your numbers from, and they're pretty much working with you throughout the duration of their deal. When
Yeah.
you close on it, it's just a handoff. They've got all of the financials, all of the rent rolls, the leases, everything is in order when you do close. So it just makes it that much more simple.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about, I mean, the team you guys had in place. I assume property management, but when did you start the relationship with this property manager? Did you bring in a new management company? Did you stick with the old management company? Give us a little bit more details on that.
Yeah, a lot of times it may be good to
Hmm.
venture out and interview at least three property managers just to gauge their knowledge of the property. It's good to have compare inside eyes and outside eyes to it, right?
Hmm.
So we did change the property management there. One reason being, we got a better rate
Hmm.
and they were just much more efficient than the prior ones were. A lot of times with value add deals, some of these deals don't even have property managers, and you need to add one, or the ones that they do have may be the reason why there is a value add need for that property because it's mismanaged.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. Awesome. All right. So as far as transition goes well, you guys have owned it for several months and you've increased occupancy. What have you guys done to keep the occupancy high and to improve it like you have? And you mentioned there was $200 in rent increases on the table. How have you guys gone about, raising the rents as well? And have you kind of met your goals with that yet?
As far as the rent goes, we're pretty much doing that in stages. Like
Hmm.
we had two evictions pending.
Hmm.
So when those are over with, we're going to go in there and turn over those units and stagger that rent up with the existing renters. But if
Yep.
you have a new one that you're turning over, you could just turn over with that increased rent when you rent it out. As far as getting more occupancy in there, we're marketing. We're using apartments.com and the local the property manager that we have
Yep.
is doing an excellent job advertising it for us. So
Okay.
that's what we use for that with the marketing and the
Hmm.
advertising. The deal is only as good as your property manager.
Hmm.
And it's your job as an operator to manage the property manager, which we have like bi-monthly meetings with them
Hmm.
to go over the numbers. And
Yep.
then we send out quarterly reports to our investors on the ongoings of the property.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. Anything you wish you would have known going into this?
Well, I wish I would have known a lot more brokers, a lot more insurance agents, and a lot more high net worth individuals before I got off into
Yep.
multifamily. Especially when you're
Right.
syndicating, you are going to need capital. You are going to need experienced general partners. You are going to need experienced investors as well. And I've also learned working with experienced investors is a lot more advantageous than working with a first time investor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because, if this is your last $50,000 and you want to invest it in a deal, I would
Hmm.
advise you just to put it in the S&P 500
Yeah. Yeah.
because, I mean, multifamily is the safest investment, but your money is tied up for that amount of time,
Yeah.
3 to 5 years.
Yeah. 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 Right. 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 Well, good. So after you guys closed on that one, what have you been doing since besides the asset management? You put your nose back to the grindstone looking for properties?
Yeah, I've got a team now. We've actually identified another property. It's a smaller property. It's a
Hmm.
31 unit in an up and coming suburb of Texas that we have under contract now. And we're
Hmm.
starting work on that deal now.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, one question that comes up. So you're on one deal in Louisville, one deal in Texas. You're in Chicago. How do you handle the distance between them?
Yeah, when I first started, you always try and decide on the market. Being in Chicago and being in the fact that I've always invested here, I started looking for properties here. But
Yeah.
throughout that time, I've learned that you have to listen to your investors and invest where they want to invest their money at, not where you think they should invest their money at, right?
Hmm.
So right now in the Midwest, especially in my city in Chicago, there's not very many. Well, there's no landlord-friendly laws here.
Hmm.
A squatter can stay in an apartment for up to a year before you get them out. Taxes are higher here, and insurance as well. And in a few areas here, there's a crime element as well,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So throughout that research, I decided to go towards more red states. That's
Hmm.
uh, that's why we decided on Kentucky and
Yeah.
especially Texas. And
Yeah.
Texas, especially, we love because of the tax situation there. There's
Hmm.
cranes going up every other week there. There's growth there, low insurance, and the landlord laws are wonderful there, if you're a multifamily owner. And
Hmm.
that's where my mentorship team is based in Texas.
Okay. Got it. Got it. So you already have a team out there. So you being in Chicago doesn't really hurt it because you have people that are there already. Awesome. 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 Yeah, I think one nice thing about this is, you can be part of deals that are in other parts of the country. Somebody from the deal needs to be close, is what I learned through, good and bad experiences. Somebody has to be close to the deal. But, if you're coming in raising capital or doing, depending on your role, you don't have to live where you're investing. So that's one nice thing, kind of unlike other professions. So, well, cool. Well, one question that I'm very anxious to hear your thoughts on. If you had to give advice to somebody a couple years behind you who's just starting on the path of multifamily investing, what would that advice be?
Number one, underwrite as many deals on your own as you can. You have to know the lingo. You have to
Hmm.
know the verbiage. You have to know the numbers. It's just like, if you want to be a professional athlete, in order for you to get in the game, you have to practice, you have to have the equipment, and you have to have the uniform. So, number two is network with as many prospective investors, partners, lead
Hmm.
sponsors, brokers, commercial attorneys, insurance agents. Join your local RIA groups, investor groups. And number three, hire you a mentor. Making a mistake in multifamily is times 10 than making a
Hmm.
mistake in residential, right?
Yeah,
One mistake can kill the deal and it can drive you out of the business as well.
yeah.
And number four is integrity. Like
Hmm.
a lot of relationships that I have, I didn't know any of these people before I got into this industry, right? So what you do and what you say, people really listen and people really are looking at you as well. So
Hmm.
they may not do business with you this year, but
Yeah.
believe me, they are paying attention, and they are vetting you as long as you walk towards this path. So walk straight, be honest, and be genuine, and you should do well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for that. Well, appreciate your time today coming on the show. I got one more question, and that's how can listeners learn more about you?
They can hit me at my website, brandstarcapital.com.
Hmm.
That's my company. Just sign up and sign in and schedule a call with me.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds good. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes for anybody interested and go from there. So once again, Brandon, thanks for coming on the show today. Very much appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brian.